I particularly like filtered out a lot of the politics oriented news in my life. I like try to keep it policy focused. And are you sure?
Can I play this
You
game?
sure you don't want me to?
It's been.
I can be harsh if you want me to be harsh.
2 weeks.
I was saying like I've filtered out a lot of the.
Do you want to be back?
Yeah, I was saying,
Kind of. I'm dying here.
Just make sure this is an intentional decision.
that's what I was just checking in.
Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah, trying to talk about like politics too much, or like I filtered out.
You
a lot
guys
of,
consume a lot of information, a lot of news, a lot of sources.
but not. I try to stay. I used to listen to like politics oriented shows, like what's the one on Sundays? Meet the Press is like
on TV.
or no, just it turned into a podcast. You just listen to audio, and that's like weekly, like mainstream political topics. But I've tried to filter those out and just stick to policy, like foreign affairs. Follow some policy oriented people, and try to filter out the politics. But
Should we do political pod, Rex? Do you have any good ones?
oh my god, yeah. I mean, I got a ton of policy oriented.
I feel like you two listen to
Yeah.
a lot of political
I listen
stuff.
to a lot. I've toned it down a lot lately
I do
because I had to
zero.
fill in a void with like macro stuff that just covers
Us
my
doing
brain.
a politics segment is my is my politics for the week. Like straight up.
I mean, like, if you just want like a general where the temperature is in the country, like Meet the Press with Chuck Todd, that's like one of the longest shows running on television, and but you get a lot of the kind of like
It
common
never
takes.
occurred to me to listen to Meet the Press as a pod, actually.
Let's see, Intelligence Matters. It's former acting director of the CIA, Michael Morell.
Ooh,
That
sounds
one's
like,
good.
That sounds like something you would love.
I love it very much. I try to ingest a lot of it. The President's Inbox is
President's
Council on
Inbox.
Foreign
Great
Relations.
title.
And so the President's Inbox is a topic.
Intriguing.
So they'll tip it topic.
This
They'll
is
say like
Alpha right here.
Taiwan, and that'll be the episode Taiwan. Some guy from CFR will interview an expert. It'll be 45 minutes on Taiwan. That's it. And it doesn't. It's not always like a timely topic, but they're important topics of what they think the president's going to have to deal with over the next like 2 to 4
Who
years.
doesn't want to know what's in the president's inbox? It's a good headline.
If you're really into like politics and voting, there is a 538 Politics podcast, which running up to the presidential.
I listened to that one, yeah.
I only listen to it
Seasonally.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a good seasonal
2
pod.
times every 4 years. I like Fareed Zakaria. Like people blast CNN, but I do like his show. I think he's mostly intellectually honest and
Yeah, everything you've sent me by him is intriguing, actually. I'm always a little bit surprised. I'm like, I'm not going to like this guy. And then I'm like, no, that was fair-ish.
Yeah, and I like his show because he has like his own Alfalfa round. He gives his take for the week, and then he interviews people, so you kind of know his biases at least from the beginning. But I'd say if you want a once-a-week pod, there's one called The World Next Week by the Council on Foreign Relations, and they basically just chop up, but it's world politics, world policies, I'd say.
What is the Council of Foreign Relations?
The Council on Foreign Relations is a kind of a non-profit / think tank. They raise money. They support people who research and write about topics. They produce Foreign Affairs magazine. That's who the publisher is. But they also have a membership group.
You're a huge fan of that, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's one of the best sources for like long-term policy decisions. They're essays. They're long essays. They're not short articles. I pay for it. It's a magazine every 2 months, so it's like not even that hard to, take in. I bring one on every flight I go to. Like,
You ever get like kind of pulled aside about this? Hey, you ever get called out for the foreign affairs?
Never.
No.
yeah,
I feel like that should be such a like strong, group of
I've
people.
had dreams of that. I've been like, man, it'd be really nice if the person next to me is like,
following.
Foreign
It just
Affairs
sparks
magazine, huh?
like an amazing
I read this
conversation.
episode. yeah, I read this.
Yeah,
Yeah, that'd be nice.
I would have thought.
Yeah.
Damn, where are they?
Damn. All right, so you get a nice kind of like wonky. I feel like my politics list is very, it's very polarized. Like it's
Yeah,
like,
you
it's-
just
it's-
you subscribe on both sides. and,
Yeah,
like,
but I don't do a lot of this down the middle like policy stuff he does. Like I have like wild like
Ben Shapiro,
like Ben
right?
Shapiro here and like Kyle Kalinske over here and Jimmy Dore, and I'm just like, It's interesting to me to hear the kind of like extremes of everything. I've been looking for more podcasts that have like an actual like moderate or back and forth discussion. Actually, I think, do you listen to Breaking Points? Breaking Points is pretty good, I think, with Sagar Injeti and Crystal Ball, who has the funniest name. I feel like she used to be on Bill Maher a lot back in the day. I remember her. But yeah, they're like left and right, but they're both kind of like populist in a way. So that's kind of like the grain of it.
Yeah. With these wonky like think tank ones, you got to like take into account that this could totally be group. This is where groupthink happens, like in these think tanks, in these nonprofits where like these kind of like academics, but also practitioners like former maybe people in the executive branch or legislative branch come in, they kind of make their arguments. And I mean, I've seen President Biden write essays in there, Mike Pompeo when he was Secretary of State, like people, the president of Taiwan, I forget her name, but she wrote a piece. Like they go there to make an argument to like the political elite, I think. But you have to keep in mind that you could certainly see groupthink in there. But they try to do a good job of getting both sides in.
I really miss. Do you know what's it? Coleman? Is it Coleman Hughes?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, Conversations with Coleman used to be such a good pod, and he stopped putting out episodes.
What?
He's got a YouTube channel.
That's
though, doesn't
crazy. He was on Rogan. He should be
Yeah,
capitalizing.
he's been on a couple times. He's great. He's such a nice, like, nuanced, like, pragmatic thing. He's like he reminds me of a young
Yeah.
Thomas Sowell.
I was gonna say, would you consider him a young Thomas Sowell?
I feel like he would like it if we said that. I don't
Yeah.
wanna put words in his mouth. But yeah, he's good. Barry Weiss's pod is really good, actually, if you listen to it, honestly.
I've done 2 episodes of that.
I've got it downloaded, but I haven't listened to an episode.
Yeah, like, she's done some cool episodes, like, where she had an episode, like, where...
She's so radically moderate.
She is. Like, she had an episode where she had a, like, Yale law professor who was, like in favor of abortion, but thought Roe should be overturned. And it was, like, a really interesting episode because he's like...
It's a mind fuck.
Yeah, but it was so pragmatic.
That's the one
and
I
it
listened to. You told me to listen to
Yeah,
that.
it was a great episode. They had a really good gun control one with 2 people on.
No, nothing beats our gun control episode.
That was, I mean, that was top tier.
That was
fun.
fiery.
It was fire.
It was also followed by porn, so
Damn, and those were the days we were doing 1 episode. We only got like 20 minutes.
what was that
for
one? It was like,
guns.
was this the bottom, and then guns, and then porn.
guns and porn. Great title.
I loved Hoffman's reaction to right
Yeah.
after we got on.
He's like,
Bankless.
that's
Yeah.
the episode you do after I introduce you to Bankless. Yeah, fuck you guys.
Definitely planned.
Well, let's talk a little politics. So
Yeah.
there was a new UK prime minister,
Another
new
one?
one.
A new one.
Yeah,
Oh.
after the shortest
Boris,
tenure.
and then the head of lettuce.
Okay, can you guys actually tell me what happened with this lady? Because I don't know. Like, I mostly learned through.
Liz Truss, like she got voted as head of the Conservative Party, the Tories in UK, and she came with a pretty like hardline fiscal, stance. We're going to get everything in control, but at the same time, she proposed some pretty heavy tax cuts.
Right.
And she said we're going to lower taxes to increase growth, and we're going to get fiscally, conservative. Yeah. And then when she rolled them out, they were even bigger tax cuts. And even her own party started freaking out that like, how the hell are we going to even pay for this? And then there was like flip-flopping back and forth, and not just in her party, but she started flip-flopping. And then it was like, okay, there's a crisis of confidence thing. Yeah, just get out. Let's just wipe the slate clean.
Was she in for like 42 days or something?
The reason I learned, the main thing I learned about her is she got a guaranteed 110K for the 10,000 pounds for the rest of her life.
Dude, I'll be prime minister for
For
42
serving
days
at
for
all.
110K.
I'll take a few hits in the.
That was the main thing that like.
It's 110,000 pounds too. Those used to be worth something.
Yeah, they used to.
They'll be back someday.
But anyway,
Yeah.
I think Rishi Sunak, the current prime minister, was kind of he was trying to take that spot, and he didn't get quite the number of votes he needed.
Yeah.
And so anyway,
But then he was up next, basically.
he's up next. Boris tried to put his hat in the ring. He didn't get enough of the MPs in their parliament to vote for him.
I'm for this. I like this move.
Yeah. So what are your thoughts on it? I mean, there's a
I
different
don't
couple
know. Like,
different angles on
I
it.
don't know much about this, but like in the brief amount that I read about the guy, it's interesting. I feel like it came out of nowhere, right? I think in 2015 is like when he basically began this journey, and 7 years later like at the top. It's pretty wild.
He's got a pretty studly. Indian parents would be very proud of this
That's
resume
what our
and have
friend said in
set
the group
the
chat.
He's a
bar
thoroughbred.
epically
Yeah.
high
Like,
for
dude.
another billion people in the
What
world.
was he, like a Goldman Sachs guy?
Yeah.
Goldman Sachs
Oh,
guy.
yeah. Married a
Oxford,
billionaire's daughter.
Oxford, then Stanford. Then married, billionaire's daughter. Then basically became I think 700 million is their family's value. Him and his
Indian
wife.
parents have this guy like there's a picture of him
Yeah.
above, above the fireplace.
Next to Modi, it's
Son, listen to me. Be like him. All good. I get one accent, Steven, to your like 4 accents you've done.
You're browner than I am, so you can do that.
I should be able to do that, but I feel like you could do that good too.
But yeah, so good pedigree for
very
Indian
good.
parents. But he's also, I mean, we kind of went over the main point is that he's how do you say it? Indian English
Yeah.
or Indian?
He's of Indian descent, which is really cool. Like I think first Asian, right? First
Yeah.
South, and then like I think it's really cool what this does across a couple things. Like obviously, United Kingdom has a lot of people of Indian descent, a lot of Indian immigrants. I've never actually been to England. It's one of the countries that, for some reason, like I've skipped over so many times.
We've been in Heathrow a handful of times, but yeah.
Yeah, not actually out there. And what I know just from reading about it, understanding is there's a lot of people of Indian descent.
Phenomenal curry there. And
I hear Indian
Yeah,
food is like English food.
The best food.
So good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
British food's
But think about what
awful.
this does. Like there are so many qualified people of some kind of Asian descent or any other descent of English, and they look at that, and I think it represents something similar to like what Obama represented in America. It's a beautiful thing. It's like, whoa, hey, it's possible. The 4-minute mile. I can do it too. It just kind of changes the perspective a little bit. But also it seems like, and we don't know the guy well enough yet, we haven't seen him in action, but it seems like he's pretty radically moderate. He's developed a sort of reputation for being a pretty centrist guy. And it also seems that he's really crypto friendly, but he's actually like playing his cards slowly because he doesn't want to get the market too excited, or I don't know the nuances there, but
there's
he's pretty for this shit.
Chatter on the internet. There's a lot of people like complaining
super-
that he's a quote unquote crypto bro.
Complaining
Okay, so
yes, there's a lot of anti.
from
like,
the crypto community?
No, from the
from the
people,
normies.
Yeah, from
okay.
the normies who hate crypto.
Well, I mean,
community.
here's a good point: is now we have a world leader of a top 5 developed country that's 42 years old. Imagine that.
Yeah, that is
He's,
cool.
he's
also
like
wild.
he's like of our generation ish, which is
He'll be able to complete his sentences.
right. I mean, he can.
He'll stay on that one question
stark
before
contrast.
he starts telling you about butterflies floating in the sky.
Right.
And actually, I joke about this, but at this point, I just saw another video. There's one like once a week, basically. Dude, I feel
just turns around.
This
and
is-
shakes hands with the error.
I saw some comments that were like, "This is elderly abuse." And I started to think
That's a
about it,
popular one, yeah.
and I actually think there's something to that for sure.
But he said
For
he's going to
sure.
run again, right? He came out and said that.
My ass.
He was on.
My
He was on
ass.
60 Minutes.
He
and
has to.
What's his face? Like asked him the question. He's like, "Well, I can't answer that right now." And I'm like,
Right.
What are you talking about?
Yeah, like, are you? Aren't you?
It was
I feel bad for him.
Yeah. I mean,
he's obviously it appears like, and again, we're like trying to diagnose somebody, like we were trying to diagnose Kanye. That was, I don't know what the hell Kanye is going through. Biden clearly is going through something as well. It looks like dementia, and this is almost like
called
borderline
the
abuse.
death process.
Not really though. No, not really. He's
called the
not-
natural order of
he's-
things.
There are plenty of people that are high functioning into their 90s. He's late 70s.
He's
if you
not
want to
gonna be
look
one of
back,
them.
I mean, look back in the 80s, I think, as some of his interviews. I
Lucid.
mean, he is lucid, clear, focused.
Strong.
I mean, yeah. I mean, you could make the same argument for Trump. I mean, he didn't
Yeah.
speak so stochastically like when he, in the 80s or 90s when Trump was. But those two are good examples of why I think people get excited when you have a 40-something-year-old.
Yeah, back to him.
your
It's
country.
like it's cool to see like a guy who's like just barely older than we are, and like sitting there running a country.
And also, I don't know if this is things to come, but the Conservative Party in the UK is kind of round-tripped back to radically moderate. So I think they
Right.
took power in like 2010. James Cameron was kind of like, he got along with Obama.
David Cameron.
Oh, sorry. Did I say James Cameron?
Yeah.
Oh, the director?
Is that Titanic?
By the way, Avatar 2 Apparently that's coming. I don't
Isn't
know.
that just the Avatar again? I thought they were just gonna play the same movie.
What? No, really? I
No,
thought there's
I-
an actual
no,
Avatar.
I don't know.
That would be funny though.
No, there's an
just 2
Avatar
years
2
ago.
They just
movie like
re-released it.
Wait a
10
minute.
years in the making. Oh,
Yeah.
did they release it?
No, but they did 2 and 3 at the the time. I think when
Okay.
when they made it, and then
Right.
so it's going to be.
Incredible
out,
that
right?
James Cameron was able to make that movie while being prime minister.
So anyway, Titanic director David Cameron kicked off the Republicans or Conservative Party there, and he was kind of like a socially liberal, fiscal conservative, like middle of the ground guy.
Bloomberg.
Yeah, and then Theresa, and then Brexit vote happened. They're like, well, you didn't even believe in this, so you're out. Theresa May comes in. She's kind of like the fall person because
I forgot about her.
yeah, exactly. Because Brexit's like an impossible thing to make good. So she kind of like, sacrificial lamb. And then populist Boris Johnson comes in and has a pretty long run. And so now we've kind of round trip back to
This guy,
someone similar to
was
David Cameron.
pro Brexit as well.
He was.
Yeah.
I didn't look back at his Brexit vote.
Yeah, Brexit vote.
He probably, I guess you kind of need to be in order to be, qualified for party leadership at this point.
Yeah, be kind of weird to put him in if he wasn't.
I guess, but I do think he'll be more like maybe like David Cameron than
What's
than
his
Boris Johnson.
like? How do you know he's like a crypto bro? What's that about?
I mean, he's
I read the story. Do you remember it? But I lost it.
I mean,
It was
he's
like he
done
was
a
some
few
NFT project.
yeah, he made some push to have like the Royal Mint do an NFT.
There you go. That's what it was.
He's like commissioned or helped commission some like exploratory report on a British CBDC. As far as I know, he's like very into that idea. I feel like the CBDC is just like a very European thing. I feel like they all need the CBDC.
we talked about it in one of the episodes when I was in
Britcoin, I think it was
France.
called Britcoin.
Funny.
I feel like they need it.
Good luck.
Oh, that's kind of funny actually. I didn't get that at
Yeah.
first.
But he's facing. I mean, he could also be like I don't know how long he'll last or how he do. I don't think by the end of this term, if he does a good job, he's going to be very popular. I mean, they're facing high inflation,
Yeah.
low to no growth. They got a bond vigilantes like pushing them up against the wall, and they got a currency that's kind of
This
like
isn't
free
like
falling.
Obama first term years where everyone's going to be very forgiving of
But keep in mind,
everything.
he
and-
came in during the in the middle of
Yeah.
a financial crisis, so he's kind of coming in those times. So we'll see if
yeah.
how he does. I think the only thing I've seen him do is he actually reinstated a ban on fracking,
Yes,
which
he
was surprising to
did.
me because I thought maybe I'm not familiar with like
Yeah.
their energy policies or whatever, but I would imagine a conservative would not do that, especially when you're facing short term and long term energy issues.
Yeah, I was confused by that.
Yeah. So anyway, we'll see how
They
this
seem
one
to not
develops.
like energy in Europe. I guess I don't know. Maybe we're like off base on this.
That would be good.
I was
'cause-
reading that it was like their soil is not like conducive to fracking. Like if you don't have like the shale deposits, then you can't really frack.
I didn't even know it was
Like
a,
it would just
is a-
like destroy stuff and like not get any results.
I don't
and
know.
like
That's what
enrich
I-
somebody.
okay.
That's what I read because I saw
Yeah.
the headline and I was like, that made me scratch my head a little bit.
Yeah. So I don't know. Maybe TB determined. We'll dig into that some
Yeah,
more.
there's always
but-
some like deeper truth to this, like in those political commercials where it's like, Nick Urbani voted against funding for orphans without legs. Why did he do that? What a terrible guy. He's just like, no. And then you hear it's something.
Please spin that to be a positive somehow.
Cut to Forrest Gump. New legs.
All right. Well, congrats to our British friends
Yeah.
for getting
Congrats.
somebody who is, not pasty white and under the age of 90. That's
I
great.
hope that this plays out well for crypto.
Yeah.
I think that
But like,
that'll be interesting. It
young
could
blood.
serve as an example of like how other countries may follow suit.
yeah, I think
Could
generally,
pioneer.
yeah, they hopefully bring some serious policy because like they've been equally as embarrassed as we have been embarrassed about our political process. Like that whole turnstile of a prime ministership has been kind
It's
of
a
a
weird thing to watch
embarrassing
from abroad,
thing
yeah.
for I think if we're citizens of.
If you think about how crypto is seen, like globally, there's been examples of governments that have done really positive things with crypto and regulation and taxes and how they perceive it and the language they use towards it. But they're often like very small countries that are not really driving the global economy. United Kingdom is in a position, I think, depending on how they play this, to be that pioneer that the United States is not being. We clearly are not the drivers of innovation in this department. I think that now this guy has an opportunity to do something that could actually be very significant for how the world views crypto.
Oh, it regulates it.
All of the above.
I can't
All of the
wait to
above.
see how this guy performs in those PM questionings. You know, when they get in the house, the parliament or whatever, and he's up and they're just yelling at each other, and the guy with the like white long hair wig is saying,
I want to
"Order,
go into that.
order."
I think that's one of the funniest, craziest things that still exists.
Like on his third day in job, people are screaming at him. He's screaming back, and I'm like, "What is this?" Like,
dude, how cool is that they still do it that way?
Yeah.
Like it's
we
very
couldn't
nostalgic.
have that here. Like,
No.
the guns would literally come out.
Yeah.
oh yeah, there would be
Yeah.
at least one Texas congressman.
You
just
ever seen
fire off?
the videos of this is like the different version, but like some African nation, and they just start annihilating each other? Have you ever seen
The
it?
guy with a cane.
No,
just comes
straight
in.
up. Like you've never seen the ones where it's like 200 guys, and it's just a absolute Sly. You should find this and post. This is show notes worthy.
In their parliament?
Literally, I'm talking about politicians in a room, like 100 to 200 of them, and they just literally get into a brawl, like the kind of brawl that you would see in like high school. Like that kind of level of brawl.
Where
like
did you
in
go to high school?
Do you mean like a-
200 people just brawling?
You mean like 200 people brawling, like say in like a national capitol building?
Yeah,
Yeah,
like-
that would be crazy if that happened.
yeah,
here.
yeah. No. Oh my God. National
I see what
Capital.
you did
Well
there.
played there.
That was more of a one-way.
That wasn't a
Yeah,
brawl. That wasn't a brawl.
I agree. Well, should we bring the focus back domestic and
yeah.
talk a little?
yeah, we're doing some political stuff.
we're going to
here.
continue on the political front.
I like
so,
the way we went global. You know,
Yeah, I think we have a good portion of our
you're
listenership
welcome,
is-
world.
we have a
is outside the
strong
US.
European contingency,
We do.
alfalfa contingency.
Absolutely.
I think it's about 20%.
I think it's valuable because like you get kind of focused and you're U.S. focused, but like I like all the perspectives in the Discord. That
We had a Czech Republic friend who came into that Discord live. It was very cool. Remember that, Steven?
I do. I was
Yeah.
there. I was literally talking to him.
Yes. That's why.
My memory's not that bad.
Cool.
I mean,
Oh, now
That
he's
was
pushing
not a
back.
dig at- yeah, well, that was not a dig at your memory.
I haven't had enough spritzes yet. I'm sorry.
Okay, bring it home.
Yeah,
Let's
all
go
right.
to
So,
the
so we
US.
got midterms up in a few weeks. So, just as a reminder, we have the Senate and the House up for grabs. In the House, all 435 seats are up for grabs. Like they have two-year terms in the House of Representatives. Only a third of the Senate is up for grabs. They have 6-year terms. The Democrats have held the House and the Senate for the last 2 years. So they've had I should take that back. In the Senate, it's a 50-50 tie, but Kamala Harris as vice president is the tiebreaker. So technically, they have majority. And, they've had 2 years to push the agenda forward. It's argued that maybe they haven't gotten as much done as they would have liked because, as we talked about, I think on an old Arman Asadi Flow podcast, that Joe Manchin would be one of the most talked about centrists because he would hold a lot of the power, and that's certainly come true as a central Democrat. So as of right now, I'm looking at the 538 stats. It's a dead heat for the Senate, of which party will
Like
maintain
55,
control.
45, right? It's
Yeah,
like
so
basically.
54 out of 40,000 simulations, Democrats take the majority in 54 of them.
And that's
54% of
538's
them.
model, right? Because the polls seem to always skew left, but I think they adjust for that, right?
They certainly adjusted since 2016. I don't know if they adjusted enough, but they took a big whipping for their forecasting.
Poor Nate.
Yeah. And then the Republicans are favored to win the House, 80% of the simulations. And historically, like when you have like one party take the White House, the opposite party typically takes back quite a few seats in the midterms, right? Because it's like
I mean, I remember Obama got
Is that the
absolutely
normal-
wrecked in his first term.
totally. I mean, he actually did a speech where he was like basically saying we got our ass kicked, and he was like, it hurts because basically these were my policies, and
That was like the rise of the Tea Party.
right.
Remember the Tea Party?
I do.
People thought those were the crazy ones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Remember they were the extremists?
These extreme guys want to pay no
Yeah.
taxes. That's so extreme. Now we got
They were the far, far end, man.
it. Just keeps getting.
That was pre-QAnon.
Oh, that was way before QAnon. Yeah. Can you imagine if Q existed during Obama?
Oh my God.
I don't even,
They
The world
pushed out
wasn't
some
ready for
like
that.
core Republicans, like what was it? House Speaker Ryan eventually like got exited out of there. He was a pretty middle of the road guy.
he was.
Back
He
then.
loved balancing budgets.
Wow, what a phenomenal concept. All right, so anyway, let's talk about the House real quick. So if Republicans do win, Kevin McCarthy, he's the majority leader. He becomes he takes Nancy Pelosi becomes Speaker of the House. And so if he comes, there's talk that like he's going to introduce bills on the economy and border security. He's going to like shut down things like access to abortion, climate change, stricter gun control. So those things are going to be like off the table. Also, like things like oversight and investigations. That January 6th thing, if Republicans take the House, they're still loyal to Trump. I imagine that will get just shut down. And more importantly, there's a pending subpoena for Trump to testify to the panel. And I'm sure his legal strategy is to just wait to hope they win the midterms, and then they'll likely cancel that.
Does he have to obey that?
Well,
Like a
I think they
congressional
issued it
subpoena?
right after what's his name? His like one of his buddies that was in the White House with him got 4 months for evading a subpoena. Yeah, I can't think of his name right now. But anyway, that just came down, and then 2 days later they issued the subpoena. So they showed the teeth of like if you don't follow the subpoena, and then they issued it, and they told him you need to show up. I think it was like November 2nd. You know, conspicuously before these midterms happen. So I think he'll just delay, and hopefully it goes away.
Smart.
But there'll be a lot more heated discussions about basic operations like debt ceiling, funding the government, things like that. In the Senate, it's currently a 50-50 split. I think if any party wins a margin, it's not going to be big. So, yeah, basically they're just going to put more political pressure on Biden to get anything done. Still, probably even more investigations and oversight. Usually the second half of like a presidential term is just like riddled with, investigations and oversight
You
BS.
mean his second part of his term is going to be useless?
Yeah, even more useless than the first.
What the hell did he do anything? Like honestly, asking for a friend. It had control of the
he passed an
entire
infrastructure bill.
government, right? So you get the infrastructure bill, which is that's sort of like a pared down version of what it used to be before, right?
Yeah, he passed more COVID, relief. Like,
That's right. He did dump a few trillion more into the economy. That was great. Good job. But what did he do?
he kind
I
of.
don't know what presidents do anymore. I mean, it's just this whole thing has just been.
He pulled us
ridiculous
out
for
of
a while
Afghanistan. I mean, I'm not saying these are accomplishments. I'm just saying these are like these are facts of what
now.
happened.
That one was kind of a bit of a tragedy, man.
And he's
for a
like,
lot
you
of
know
people.
what? We don't really have any good wars
Started
going
a
on.
war.
What if we
Yeah.
could stick into?
He
Yeah, we had to get a new war rolled out after we got rid of the other one
decriminalized marijuana in
Yeah.
a retroactive basis.
in a way that didn't actually decriminalize anything.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Anyway, Democrats are campaigning on abortion because of the Roe v. Wade overturning. They probably should have like.
That'll work well.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't want to sound pessimistic about humanity, but I do think they like this topic unsolved because it's one of the easiest things to fundraise on and campaign
Of
on.
course they do.
Yeah,
Why haven't we talked about that before?
I mean,
We mentioned it.
let's
in the
talk
episode.
about that.
I talked.
I mean,
about it.
Obama said, "Hey, one of the things
I
I'm
remember
going to
this.
do when I get into office is we're going to codify Roe v. Wade into law," and they didn't do it because when he got in, it just wasn't a priority. Like when he campaigns, it's a priority.
Wasn't a priority, or it was intentionally left out because of what you just said.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's it. But anyway, I'm going to touch real quick on Republicans are obviously like pushing on economy and inflation. They'll probably stick with that. But back to the abortion thing, there's 36 governors up for pick, and that is important for abortion because now we're essentially deferring to states to say what should your state's law be, and so those things are being fought out on abortion and. If you believe this is even an issue like election election fraud, like the Secretary of State's position in each of these states is actually a pretty big thing to look at, even though we usually ignored because there's a lot of funding going from election deniers to try to, modify the rules ahead of another presidential election. So these Secretary of State positions, they're the official who oversees the elections. So
Yeah.
you know, there's a lot of power plays, I'm sure,
So-
going off
so
local
the,
level.
The D's are running on culture and the R's are running on economics.
What a what
we-
what a novel
I think
concept.
we know how that's
Yeah.
going to go,
Yeah.
though. I don't know. Like I feel like Bill Clinton ran on the economy, worked pretty well for him. I don't know. It seems like the Democrats are focused on culture because they just don't have anything else. Like, what is their economic argument? What is their foreign policy argument? Like they've like
Abandoned.
completely torched foreign policy, whether or not
Yeah.
you think it's their fault. Like foreign policy has been completely torched. The economy is not great for most inflation. We don't have to go down this. Everybody knows it.
Right.
Um,
But there's so many areas they could tackle that kind of intermingle with each other. Like one I would love to hear either party go about is like legal immigration. So specifically H-1B visas. There is like a massive amount of applicants compared to the number that the U.S. lets in. And so these are typically very high qualified candidates.
Those are the people we want in the country.
Yeah, exactly. They have to apply. They have to say, these are my
If
skills.
we don't take them, somebody else will.
Yeah, and the only
Don't
way
they like start a business and then hire people to? Like,
that's one. That's another type
That's
of visa
one,
where they,
okay.
they could come and they have to put a certain amount of capital in a business and start a company.
This is the genius visa, basically.
Yeah, this is like, you know, every big company saying we don't have the type of human capital to do this type of physics work or science work or math work, but we found a perfectly good candidate who can. We've interviewed him. We want him. We're willing to sponsor this person, and this person's willing to say like, I will commit to this job for a long period of time, because if they leave that job, they lose their visa and go home. And so that the amount of those openings has significantly gone down pre-COVID, and COVID was a reason why we're not going to let in anymore. But I think it would be a great policy to significantly increase the amount of applicants we would accept, because if you look at inflation, one of the structural inflation issues is labor, and specifically like a shortage of labor and shortage of particular types of labor. So the H-1B visa would be a great, I think, on either party to go. And then have you guys heard of the Jones Act before? It's this like really weird thing where like if you want to use waterways to move goods in the country, you have to use an American-made boat that uses American oil
Hell yeah.
with an American captain.
Goddamn right you do.
Yeah, and so you have like these like we have like San Francisco.
sounds like it was made in like 1892.
It was. I think it's like 100-year-old like type of legislation. And you have like these parts of our country which are really good, like the San Francisco Bay, the Gulf of Mexico. You have the Northeast, which waterways, and we have to ship stuff via trucks, which is really fucking expensive. But there's also this thing we've been blessed with in America, which is like a ton of waterways that could actually move goods in a cheaper way. And also, if we're going to bring manufacturing home, it'd probably be smart to like loosen those things. It's just Democrats get in trouble with it because unions hold a pretty tight hold on those like port workers and things like that. So, modifying the Jones Act to say, hey, we're going to allow non-American vessels to transport. It could be a way to like invest in ports, invest in manufacturing around those ports, and also relieve some of the structural inflation we might face over the 10 years when you kind of allow more jobs and goods to move, cheaper across the country. So those are things I feel like is like drastically missing from the conversation. But
It's pretty obvious. It's like sad that people can't run on that like obvious stuff.
I don't know if you could explain the Jones Act in like a 16-second
Yeah,
commercial.
and that
can't-
doesn't sell. What does that do? It doesn't move people.
right.
They don't give a shit. They
No,
give a
no
shit
one's
gonna vote
about
on that.
babies.
Yeah, what sells is
You
like
know?
these people are going to turn you into the Handmaid's Tale, and people are like, "Oh my god!" It's like, okay, like that. That's all well and good until you're paying $15 a gallon at the pump. You're like, wait a minute, how did I get here? It's like, oh, because you selected all of your politicians on the basis of some like cultural fear campaign on both sides, I might add. But like you said, there's the immigration thing just drives me crazy. It's like the most obvious thing we should do. Yeah, should we just import like all the geniuses of the world into the country? Yeah, it seems like a good idea.
Yeah.
Especially when we have like structural labor shortages.
Because at the same time, to satisfy everyone, we say, okay, we're going to reinforce border security, like really clamp down on illegal immigration. But at the same time, we're going to increase legal immigration. So you can kind of get both sides on board with it. It's just these unions. And I think we haven't talked about this on the podcast yet, but we've talked about how public sector unions are one of the worst public sector union monopolies, I guess, on labor for public sector areas is a terrible thing for the country.
So what's an example of that?
I mean, you could talk about police forces, right?
Like California State Teachers Union.
Teachers,
is one of the most
Long Beach port workers.
It's ridiculous.
Like we're all beholden to them. And granted, like their union representatives are just working towards their self-interest. But when you look in the whole, you're sacrificing it to the whole of like.
It's not so much the fact that they exist; it's the fact that they are allowed to basically take taxpayer dollars and then like lobby politicians with it, and it just creates this obvious corrupt bargain that is funded by the taxpayers themselves. It makes no sense. And like the results aren't great. Like nobody sits around and goes, you know what's so awesome about California? The public schools,
Right.
The best.
And whenever you look at a governorship or like I think it's called Secretary of Education for the state of California, but whenever you look at those, the first thing you have to look at is like, is there a teachers union behind them? Because then it tells you literally 90% of what you need to know about that candidate. And so, and they have their footholds and everything. And so, yeah, it's just troublesome when they can wield around so much power in the political process, but also so much money. And it's not like we can offer a competing alternative. It's not like we could be like, well, we don't like the police force labor union in Baltimore, so we're just going to replace them with a different police force. Like you can't do that. Or like port workers in Long Beach. Like you can't do that. I mean, so yeah, maybe we should talk about that in depth at some point, because I think it hurts a lot of the stuff we would like to move forward that seem common sense.
Yeah.
Can you guys hold a safe space for me for a moment?
Oh,
Can you?
No.
Oh, damn it.
I like you pre-wiring us.
I'm gonna
for
go
this.
get a drink while you do that. So the
Damn
space
it.
is safe.
No, go
Come
ahead.
on, Steven. Make it safe for me. You're gonna. I want
I'm
you.
no longer in front of the mic. It's
Oh,
safe.
okay. You know, how am I supposed to continue? You just walk away from the conversation. I'm listening to you. Okay, good. For those that didn't hear that, he just yelled, "I'm listening to you." So I'm gonna have a moment and just get cynical, and I think it's gonna come out every like 7 politics episodes, because it's just honestly like at the root of it all, this is how I feel. It's really challenging. You know, at the end of the day, like the only way things get done in the world is through politics. It is the system of governance in which like anything can be accomplished. If what you're saying is true, which I think it is, that certain issues that are highly emotional, that move people, are reserved and unsolved intentionally because that is what enables their political party to use as almost like in a manipulative way to source their energy to get the vote, to take the power, to stay in control, to get the money. And of course, when you look at it, I said the comment earlier, I was like, yeah, because people are distracted, quote, you know, not really distracted. They're forced to care about the most important thing, which is babies. They're like, okay, this abortion thing is unsolved. So I have these 2 choices, and they're both giving me emotional reasons why one is right over the other. And I am inclined to believe one is right over the other because of my environment, or my upbringing, or the beliefs that I developed for myself. And so, of course, there's no space for really important policy matters, because when you're forced to choose between 2 devils, you have to pick the lesser of 2 evils. And so if one is saying we're going to redefine when life begins, and the other is saying we're going to let you kill babies, and the other's like, oh, but the babies, that's a real baby. You get lost in those details, and you're forced to pay attention to that, because it's almost like higher up on the hierarchy of needs as a human being to get that resolved. And so really where I land when I think about all of that is just like the whole thing, every 7 episodes, and this is the one exposure I get to politics is like, it's a fucking game. It's a game. It's an ancient game, and it's been the game forever. And it always, in a way, will be, but it's ultimately just such a challenging way to get anything done. Nothing really happens that looks like real progress to the degree that it could be if we were incentivized to actually solve the problems and take care of the people that we represent. And I'm speaking as if I was a politician. Yeah. That isn't the job. That isn't what happens. Ever. It's just like maintenance and earning power, maintaining power, and accumulating dollars and sucking those dollars out of the system to the degree which is most possible in the most corrupt way that keeps you out of jail, but in the least corrupt way.
Yeah,
Like,
I mean,
it's just corruption all around.
a main like the politician's first job is to stay in office and to get reelected. That is the only thing that cares about. It's literally the equivalent of surviving to them, right? And so in order to do that, they have to do two things. They have to raise a fuck ton of money, and they have to be extreme. And so if you look at the raising money, it takes a lot of money to win elections. So that's one area. And then being extreme, like with gerrymandering and non-ranked choice voting, you kind of have to be in these extremes to win, especially in Congress.
What a waste, though.
And so, like,
doesn't that bother you
those
guys?
three things-
The waste of capital. The waste of capital that goes just toward the election process alone.
Yeah.
Millions and millions, tens of millions of dollars for each of these. Like,
It's a hard problem though. Like there's some countries in the world where they have publicly funded elections and they're like a shit show because anybody can run and then people use the platforms to do all sorts of weird crap and it creates like a ton of noise. So that's not a perfect system.
We also campaign
either
3-4 years before the election happens, which is why it probably costs so much money. In some European countries, they're like 2-week period for campaigning and then we vote.
And being a representative is like a joke, right? Like you're in office for what, your term's two years?
Your term's 2 years, and
So
if
you
you're a
just run
freshman,
forever.
your little job is cold calling. You get put in a room, and your job is to raise money for the party. And people think that like AOC is a all-star and a leader in the Democratic Party because of her policies, but she actually just
was
raises
just
a fuck ton of money.
badass cold caller.
She raises
see
money.
that.
She's a rainmaker. Like she
I could
brings
see
in
that.
money for the Democratic Party, and that's why she has
there
a
should-
seat at the table.
I think there should just be more representatives. Like, why don't we just have 10,000 people in the House? And then everybody is represented by a district of like 2,000 people.
I think he's
and
onto
you,
something.
And you don't have to run all the time because everybody just knows you. You're just like, hey, it's me. I'm doing my thing over there. And then Nancy can't like wrangle up 5,001 people to all vote the same way because there's just too much cattle. And then you just decentralize.
And then
the whole
perhaps,
thing.
and you vote on the more important, you have the opportunity to vote on the more important matters. Because if you have like a smaller class, it's like a analogy of like a classroom size. Your representative would work more closely with you, develop more of a relationship. They're hearing your voice. There's only 2,000 of you. So they're like, I have a understanding of my community at a deeper level than would be possible.
I still feel like we should just delegate people. I still feel like you should just have direct democracy and you should just vote on everything. And if you don't want to vote on everything, you should just delegate your vote to like delegate. And if your delegate sucks, you just delegate your vote. Why do you have to wait for like 6 years to change the thing? It just like enables so much corruption. Like both systems suck.
I
Like
think
one
we should
system you
take-
run all the time, you don't do anything. And the other system, it's just like a tiny pool who is just like absolute power, and you can never get them out because they're so powerful. Like
I want the
they
other
both suck.
extreme. I want it where people don't have the right to vote. They have to earn the right to vote. I want what I mentioned on that episode that Socrates came up with. That's what I would want.
I think it's an interesting question whether or not
I don't
everybody
think people should have the right to vote. I think that only certain people. You gotta. Like I made the same analogy last time. You gotta take a test to be able to drive a car. You don't have to take any fucking test to vote how democracy or government looks. That's crazy. You have to have a certain type of brain, the ability to understand
Well,
the
these
policies.
tests were used in the past to like disenfranchise people, though.
They absolutely could be. Yeah, they could be used that way for sure.
I mean, I think it's crazy that you have 435 House seats up for grabs, and like only a handful of them are actually heated battles, and it's because gerrymandering. Like they literally draw the lines of the district so that there's only Republicans or only Democrats, and
Right.
the politicians that win in those are the most extreme because you have to capture. You have to be the most Republican or the most Democrat to win. Where if you could somehow ungerrymander and redraw the lines where there was like 50-50, well then the person with the most reasonable policies would actually win.
Right.
And maybe ranked choice voting would be ideal in that scenario too. The money out of politics one's tough to solve. I've talked about it before on this podcast, but like if you want a good primer on it, Lawrence Lessig has a book. I think it's called Republic Lost or Lost Republic.
What's he up to these days?
I don't know. I haven't heard him, but by the way, he's the one who created like Creative Commons, and we talked about
Yeah.
CC Zero. Like he's the founder. Also, great presentation style that I definitely stole
Really?
from his teachings at I think Stanford.
Mm-hmm.
He would do this presentation slide where it was a slide every like 2 seconds.
Oh yeah.
And so you'd
have
have like a
seen this.
15-minute speech with 200 slides. And for the ADD student, it's perfect.
Yeah, just totally tunes them in. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah. Eric and I won and another group won a students in free enterprise presentation
What?
purely off salesmanship off the presentation.
Using the Lawrence Lessig method.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
You guys got
Wooed them with the slides.
You haven't mentioned this before. You have a certificate, a plaque of some kind? Like,
We do.
yeah, I bet. We
brought home the hardware.
Right, that's right, we did. Bring the hardware.
The trophy. Yeah. Hell yeah.
Okay, last thing I'll say about our little politics episode. There's another thing that's kind of up for grabs. Marijuana could be legal in half the states. So there's 5 states that are going to vote on legal marijuana. So that's Arkansas, Maryland, Missouri, North and South Dakota. So we're starting to get into these like red states
Whoa.
that are actually voting on this.
Maryland's going to allow it for sure.
Yeah. There's currently 19 states and then DC. So if all of them vote yes, then you have 25 states plus DC that have legal marijuana.
Do you find it a little bit sad that this is like the stuff everybody talks about for like progress these days in the States? Like,
We made
look
drugs
at all
legal.
the states we're legalizing drugs in, and it's like, that's fine, but
I think it's more important than you think.
is it?
I think so.
Is it more important than the immigration? Is it more important than like the schools?
No,
Is it
maybe
more
not.
important-
No,
like,
if you want to like rank it,
It's gotta
we
be
would
like-
have to sit and really prioritize.
I feel like if we
but I
put
think
all
it
the
is important.
policies there, it'd be like wouldn't crack the top 100.
I think the reason it's important, like quick version, is that it shapes the way people think, and it also shapes behavior. So it's like, again, back to that. Was it this episode, previous episode? Look at a culture and see the drugs, the chemicals that it consumes. A society that smokes cannabis and drinks less alcohol, interesting. I would like to see what that looks like. An example of that would be where I just came from, the Netherlands. Interesting. Pretty high functioning egalitarian society. There's very low corruption. The things they complain about are very small, but they're big to them. That was very interesting. It's like, it's all relative, right? The issues there are big to them. But when they explained them to me, it was like, oh my God, like that's what you guys are dealing with? It's like Nick's dream. They're dealing with like these really important, like, but specific policy matters. How are we managing our water? Because that affects like our future. How are we treating there was another thing that came out recently. It's like, I was looking into it from a religious perspective. Like are they a religious country? Most people are not now. They're literally discussing how to treat religious people to make sure that they don't lose sight of the fact that that's an integral part of a lot of people's lives in their country that are Protestant or Catholic or whatever they might be. Really interesting stuff. So it's like, yeah, I think it can shape society.
I think it's fine. Like I don't have any problem with states legalizing weed, but it's just like I just feel like as a society, we should be doing such like more grandiose stuff and
We for
solving
sure
bigger
should.
problems. And it just everything feels like very like end cycle society to me. We're worried about drugs and sexuality and the color of people's skins. It's just all this bullshit. And then everything seems
So how do you
to be
change
like
that?
sort of
How do you
decaying.
get policies or more important matters being discussed? and voted on?
Long form content like this.
Yeah.
This is
But
the
how do
only
you?
way.
But how do you get it actually moving into not just into the psyche of the people, but how do you get it moving into like political action?
hardship?
Yeah.
Like,
yeah,
I-
hardship.
It's that what's that quote? Like difficult times make strong men make good times, good times make weak men make hard times. It's just like a cycle. I don't think there's
Yeah.
anything we could do to make it. I kind of think everything just does decay, and then there has to be a generation that grows up around the decay and sort of rejects it, and
goes,
they're
"What
like,
the
"What is
fuck?"
going wrong?"
Yeah.
But I don't know. What are you gonna do? Like mass explain to everybody all this stuff? It's I don't know. I don't get me wrong. I'm bullish on America, but like we are in a large rut right now, like an enormous rut from what I can see.
And yet better off than most.
Yeah, because we like have great geography and we get the entire world to just subsidize us with like the dollar system.
Yeah.
Because we're weak men and we created bad times.
Millennial weeks.
Oh man.
But I do think like the more that the population consumes longer form content and stops watching, full circle back to where we started, things like Meet the Press, where it's just literally political operatives and political hacks just taking the party line up on this like weekly stage.
so you're telling me to not watch Meet the Press now?
Well, I'm just saying, if you want an overview of where the political operatives are angling their
so you watch
message
it just to
for the angle. What angle are they taking? It's not
that's
like
very meta.
It's not
Okay.
actual. Like,
Okay, I get it now. When you suggested that, I was like, really?
I mean, you can literally see how they're positioning
You're like
themselves.
observing chimpanzees in the zoo.
Yeah, I mean that's what Meet the Press is
Look at them.
for. They
Scratching
literally
their
bring in
butts.
both sides of the chimpanzee world to say like, so how are you gonna basically talk down to us about this issue? But the more I think distributed the amount of content comes, like if there was like 10,000 podcasts like this, and most people, even if they pick their own little groups, and stop watching talking heads on CNN and MSNBC and Fox and got
They
their
have already,
information that way.
and it will only continue.
Right. So I think that's one thing to be hopeful
This is
for.
modern media, for sure. Yeah.
So next time Armand says something, I'm just gonna do the Meet the Press thing. Like, he's gonna be like blah blah blah, and I'll be like, Armand, the American people don't like dead babies. you always just throw the American people aren't stupid like you're telling the American people.
That is a good little shtick that is often used.
They just do it all. They
Yeah.
have like their little notebook of shticks that
yeah.
they do.
Notebook of shticks, exactly.
You should
Political
hear when you
shticks.
get these like politicians off the record, like they learn about media handling more than anything.
The first thing they learn is don't answer the question.
Exactly.
right?
I was just going to lead there. Like the first rule about getting interviewed on these shows is don't answer the question. Just say what your main point that you want to get across in
Keep
there.
driving it.
Like, that's
Yeah.
a good point about inflation. Anyway, immigration is
Press training is just that too.
that's it is.
Which
Literally-
I'll tell you what's really inflating the numbers of people coming across the border into El Paso right
perfect. Oh wow,
Yeah.
you're prime.
You're
You're
ready.
ready, baby.
now. Thank you, Senate seat, please.
Yeah.
You know who does answer the question? Steven's favorite person, Jordan Peterson.
Oh god. All right, we're gonna have to end this before it
Yeah, I don't
ravels
wanna-
under
I did
control.
it mostly so they could make that joke. Yeah. And just close the
I
episode.
thought you were going to say Trump. He
Just
answered
hot.
questions.
Yeah, he does.
Not my
Well.
favorite person, but he answered questions.
Most people believe he didn't answer the question.
He would use words that weren't.
People were like,
Yes, that he said inflammatory things, but a lot of times he would just skirt around the actual question. And he would just bulldoze people. He would just like move on.
Oh,
Actually,
I
Biden
feel like I
doesn't answer
disagree.
questions anymore.
Biden can't understand words.
I can't disagree with that.
All right, this is one of our focused politics. Like I usually like to talk about policy, but we talk about more about politics. I don't know in the Discord. Let us know, yay or nay. Midterms only comes around every 2 years, so if you hate it, you just got through this.
I
That's
look
like
forward
that.
to our
My vote counts.
midterm recap
That's
episode.
great.
Now.
Oh no!
Yeah.
Yeah, there might be another one coming in your
We
face.
didn't even talk about the guy running with a stroke against the former guy who sold
I tried not
diet
to.
pills on lighters.
I heard Kanye's running, by the way.
Yeah,
He probably thinks he is.
Yeah. Rectum from our Discord community came up with a slogan for it. Make Kanye again, 2024.
like go away from yay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like that.
Just,
Wouldn't it be
Old
make
Kanye.
Ye Kanye again?
He's irrelevant now. He's poor.
yeah, he's not a billionaire anymore.
Oh, he debillion.
By the way, well done, Adidas. I guess a lot of people were upset that it took them too long. But
That's like 8% of their fucking global revenue.
was a big-
So
it was
I
a
imagine
big
it took a few
decision.
days to make that decision.
they were
yeah.
just in the boardroom like,
can we actually wrap with that really quick? With this, just quick Kanye.
of course we can. It's your show.
'Cause- no, it's your show. This is your show too, baby.
Our
so
show.
like, no, I was texting with a friend about this, and he was like, "I'm legitimately trying to understand Kanye." This is a very smart friend of mine. Like, he was like, he gives everyone like a chance. He's just like, I'm really trying to understand. And then I was like, hey man, I tried to. Like, he's gone. Like, it's just
You're
it's
like,
gone.
You see that man taking a crap on the sidewalk right there?
That's not that
That's
different.
Kanye.
Not that different. He's clearly in the middle of like some kind of manic episode, and needs help badly.
Did you listen to the Lex interview? By the
Yes.
way,
I haven't.
It was kind of hard to listen to.
Not
it was
the whole thing,
it was the first episode I've ever heard where Lex like fought with it. He's usually like love
Yeah,
and
yeah.
peace, and I think I understand what you're saying, and the answer is that we need more love. It's just like everything is just love, and then Kanye is like, there's the Jews, and then Lex is like, well, hold on a minute.
Yeah.
Like it got really out there.
Yeah, I mean, he's everywhere right now. He'll go anywhere. He'll go anywhere that will give him a platform, and I think it's not good to give him a platform.
Would you give him a platform
Lex was
on
the best
Alfalfa?
platform
No.
you could have, though, right?
No.
Like Lex did a good job.
Kanye,
he wasn't like exploiting.
If Kanye called tomorrow and said, I'd like to be on, I'd say no.
I would say yes.
I would
we
bring
would
him
all,
on.
we would
Yeah?
tie you to the wall.
I would for sure
not-
bring him on.
I think it's abusive.
We would finally sign the operating agreement and
I
then
think
vote
it's-
again. Vote
there's
for it.
nothing-
We would lure you into a room.
Okay, I'll have a
and lock
conversation
you
with
in.
him if it would be me aggressively telling him that the things that he's saying that I disagree with are wrong. It would be a very combative
That
conversation.
wouldn't be useful.
I just love like
I'm just telling you how I would be.
the jokes on him.
If he said something about Jews, I would annihilate him.
Annihilate
him. I'm not even kidding right now. The fact that people just go like, "Oh, I don't know about that," or like, I forget another one. It was just like the response was like, he was like, "Well, that kind of offends me. You know, that's offensive. Why would you say that, Kanye?"
very Lex.
No, the fucking answer would be like, "Bro, shut your mouth.
Well,
you
this
can't
is
talk
why
about
Lex
like
says
that."
Kanye and we don't.
Yeah, well,
So thanks.
I love
Wouldn't work.
the jokes on him. Apparently, Adidas can sell all of his designer lines still the same and just change the name. It's not like he has like proprietary to that design.
designs.
Yeah, they're probably like finally like on the second day of deliberation, the general counsel's like looking at the agreement and is like, oh wait, we can just sell these same things he designed and then
Well,
change
just-
the name
just
and we're
change
still
it to,
just as
like-
rich. Yeah.
Well,
Hey,
the designs are
wonder
heinous.
if-
They're only selling because they're Kanye.
I have a friend who shall not be named, who you all know, who has those Crocs, and whenever he rolls up to, you know who you are, to pickleball wearing them, it's just like the biggest travesty. And I know, like, apparently the Zoomers like it. Apparently he wants to be a Zoomer. He's not a Zoomer.
He wants a Zoomer girlfriend.
Sly, do you wear those Crocs? No, Sly doesn't wear those Crocs.
people wear those things because it's just
it's
purely
just a giant
Kanye.
troll. I think they're getting trolled, and they think
they
they're
are getting
it's-
trolled. They are getting trolled. I agree with that. All it is like Kanye trying to be this like fashion savant. He's not. And really, what's going on is that he has such a control over the culture that they will do anything. They will up until now. I think that has changed now with this episode that he went through. But they would do anything, buy anything that he puts out. It doesn't matter. Immediately pre-sold, gone, because it's cool. People want to be cool. That's it. It's that simple.
I think
wanna
he's
flex
like
and
I
be
think he's
cool.
getting deeper ingrained and ingratiated with a certain a lesser
With a
percentage, a lower percentage of the population. But like
Yeah.
it's like Trump. Yet it's like he speaks very clearly and loudly to 45% instead of being
Yeah.
Kanye who was like loved by everybody.
Yeah. Well, this is what I wanted to end with about Kanye is like, or the point about Kanye. People kept asking like, did he cross the line? We've talked about this many times. Well, from a perspective of like, I want him to be able to say, like, if he was sitting here and we were talking and he said something ridiculous, I'd smack back. I'd be like, yo, like generally speaking, as a human being, bro, you don't talk like that. But that's the discussion that human beings have. Did he do something wrong from a perspective of censorship where we need to draw the line and deplatform him? I don't know. I don't think so. I think the answer is if from a legal speech perspective, he crossed a line, then yes, there should be repercussions. But beyond that, I think he should be free to say what he wants to say, and we need to deal with that. Society needs to deal with that. But the right response is, instead of deplatforming somebody, instead of taking away their their ability to say what they want to say freely, what you do is you take away the thing that gave him the platform in the fucking first place: attention. You stop giving him attention. You take his deals away from him, like what Adidas did. You stop buying his shit. You make him irrelevant. And what is happening right now is that pie of people that cared about Kanye and what he did is shrinking, as Eric said. And so that's good because he's losing money. And that's how people vote. They vote with their dollars. They vote with their attention. Those are the two currencies that we have, that we give people. So if you ask me, the right thing is happening, which is that everything that was good in his life, all these things are being taken away from him. And what he really needs to do is go take a really hard look at his life and get some help.
Yeah, a few more media cycles, he'll be out of it.
Can I offer
We
a
don't have to talk to him about
contrarian
it again.
take too?
Sure, yeah, that was the point. I want to hear.
I don't necessarily think that Adidas should not drop Kanye. They definitely should. I actually think what Lex did is the best thing. I think like if you really want to make the world better, and the way to make the world better is you take this person with a gigantic platform and you have them go like, oh shit, maybe I fucked up. The way to do that isn't to sort of like persecute them and drive them into a corner and be like, see, it is them versus me. And then you just get this like, I think what Lex did was pretty good. He didn't get angry, but he was just like, yo, come on, man. Like, don't you see that's hurtful?
But did Kanye change his tune at all?
I felt like he did, honestly, during the interview. Like, I felt like when I was listening to it, he was kind of being like, I heard some like like little snippets that made me think there was like some introspection going on, which I don't usually get.
Didn't see any introspection, but maybe I didn't look at every.
And don't get me wrong, I think it was hard.
Maybe it's
to
not an
listen
immediate
to.
change either. Maybe it takes a while for him to process and sit on it and chew on
But
it.
I think it's how like we should treat each other in general, instead of being like, no, you're evil. Let's all dunk on you. Let's all cancel you. It's like drive you into your corner, and then we just like
Only
people
in
should just be like,
response
hey,
to him doing it in the moment. I'm not saying he should be punished or canceled. So that's different. I don't think he should be canceled.
But you said
in
you
that
would
way.
interview him, and you'd be like,
I said if he said something disrespectful and wrong and racist, I'd be like, bro, that's fucking racist. Why would you say that?
but
That's
I
what
think
I said
the
I would
Lex
say.
approach is better.
Well, I'm not Lex Friedman. I'm Arman Assadi. And if someone says something stupid about Jewish people, I'd be like, bro, that's stupid. If one of you did, I would too. What? That's just me. That's what would
But you
happen.
can say that to me because I'm your friend, and when we're friends, like your friends can be like, dude,
yeah,
that was
friends say the
fucking
worst shit to each other.
like just,
Fine, but like I really believe there's no celebrity that's gone on shows that's done something like that. If we had a guest on that said something ridiculous that was racist, you'd say something too. You'd be like, whoa,
I'm
what
not
the
saying
fuck?
not to say something. Lex said something.
Yeah.
Yeah,
he was very clearly like,
You guys are arguing about
Whoa.
style, and your style is to be more confrontational, direct. Lex's style is to be a little bit more
Yeah.
like lovey.
I think
but
the
like,
Lex.
and I think
I
I
think
agree
the
with
love
Steven.
style is effective if
I
we want to
agree.
really make the world better, and we really want to actually change people, and not just use them as a thing to dunk on to make ourselves look better because we're dunking on this poor guy with mental problems. You know,
I wouldn't even dunk on him. That's why I wouldn't want to like sit and have that conversation. That was my initial. It's like you give him that platform, you either have to disagree with him and dunk on him, or you got to do the loving approach like Lex if you have the the patience for that.
Yeah.
Like that's why I said I wouldn't even
that's
even
fair.
bother.
I mean, that's very big of you. I would really want the clicks.
I
But
would just
That
want to meet the guy.
feels like using him.
I would definitely be using.
I would
him,
use
yeah.
him.
I'm not like trying to stand on a moral like high ground. I'm
But
definitely not.
I believe that this is a person that is going through an extremely difficult mental episode that needs help. I don't want to use somebody like that. That's what I'm saying.
Well, I think
That's the crux
I think
of
we
what I'm
could
getting at.
interview him and then not use.
We're not
him.
going to get him on the show, so let's
Yeah,
just
not
move
with
on.
that attitude.
No, this is we're just discussing.
I'm tired of it.
Why do you just all of a sudden? Why? It was just discussing it.
Eric's tired of Kanye. Okay,
It's also 4 a.m. for him in European time.
It's
all right.
already like an hour plus on this episode.
All right, let's wrap it up.
Well, on that note, let's.
Vote Alfalfa in the midterms, and yeah, we'll see you next one.
Alfalfa 2024.
Yes, I like that.
Wait, what year is it?
It's 2022, but we'll be 2024.
Yeah, close enough.
All right. Cheers.
Peace.
Adios.